All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to our Dive into Creatio series. This is session 2. We're going to be covering some no-code customizations, which is one of the core features of Creatio, being able to customize it for yourself without actually having to write any code. So our agenda today, we'll cover a little bit about terminology and how Creatio labels things. So we'll be talking about what is a section, and then we'll cover what is a page and what that entails. And then we'll talk about moving fields and tabs, reorganizing the layout of your page, and then adding new fields. And then, of course, saving that record so that the page has been refreshed, updated, and how that works. So I know we have 30 minutes. We'll get cracking. If you want any additional information, again, Creatio has a very, what I think is a pretty robust and detailed documentation, and that's on the academy.creatio.com website. And just for some information, we got links to a record page and also, the base of doing user interface customization. So you can click on those and get a lot more great information. All righty, we will end here shortly, but let's jump into the session and talk about sections and pages and everything. All right, so here we have Creatio. We are looking at accounts. You can see that right here in the top left. So first thing we're going to talk about is what is a section. Basically, everything you see on the left sidebar when you're navigating your workspace, no matter what workspace you're in, you can see we have lots of options here. But for example, the sales workspace, you'll see accounts. Accounts in Creatio terminology is a section. So you'll even see that right up here in the URL, account section V2. So basically, you can think of an account as an object, maybe even a table in a database, if that's how your mind works. But that is the core container of an object in Creatio, just called a section. So contacts would be a section, activities, opportunities, orders, all that good stuff. And typically, permissions are done on the section level as well. So as part of Creatio, you have a lot of these things out of the box. But one of the things you can do is you can even make your own sections, and we can cover that in session 2 probably. We won't hit that today, but we'll hit it later. And you can add them to workspaces, make your own workspaces, all kinds of fun things. So if you wanted to track something totally custom that was unique to your business, that is entirely possible and highly recommended. We've done that on our own. So maybe you want to track like customer warranty information, employee leave requests and all that kind of fun stuff. You can do that here in Creatio just by, using sections and then of course pages. So now that we know what a section is, roughly, a database table or just an object. When we open up a section record, let's say we go into RCI Corp here. Okay, now we're on a page. Generally speaking, a section will have one page, but a section can have multiple different pages. An example is the activity type. Another example is the project. There's a project page and a project task page. So you would configure a page with whatever fields that you have defined on the section. And you'll see this in action here shortly. And so the page is just displaying whatever fields that you want to be displayed on that page. And again, you could have multiple ones based on whatever reasons or logic that you need. And the page layout is roughly similar to this, right? You've got a left sidebar, your action panel, and then all your fields and tabs and everything. You can, kind of tweak these a little bit, especially in the updated versions. But we'll roll with the current page setup right now. And so what we're going to do is learn how to add custom fields, move fields around. We talked about the naming a little bit, and moving tabs around, and maybe even make a new tab. Okay, there are multiple ways to get to the section wizard area where we're going to go in and actually add the fields and customize the page. One way, which is probably the way I use most often, is while you're on that section, accounts, contacts, whatever, up at the top right where it says view, if you have the correct permissions and the correct security, you can say open section wizard. That's a super easy way to get there, and we're going to do that right now. So once I do that, it is opening what Creatio calls the section wizard, and we are in here for the first piece of our section editing. So there is, for every section, there's a title, which is basically the pretty display name, and there's an underlying code. Anything out of the box will normally just be what it is: account, contact, activity, case, things like that. When we talk about adding custom ones, it'll get prefixed with something, normally USR, and then we give it the correct code. So the code is basically the underlying database table name, and then a title is your pretty name that gets displayed right here on the section workspace list. So if we wanted to change that, you'll notice we can change accounts and call it, if we wanted to call it companies, we could call it companies if we wanted to. Or maybe if you want to call it organizations. Whatever you want to rename that to, that is fine. The underlying code is going to stay account. You'll notice there's a lock symbol. We can't change that. But you can change the pretty display name that shows up in the workspace area. Well, we'll just keep it organization for now. Well, that's not true. We're going to leave it as accounts. Okay, so you'll notice we have at least one page, and we edit that page through here. A lot of records in the system also have the concept of a mini page, which is like the little kind of small pop-up page. If you were to hit like right here and then account, this little pop-up page is called a mini page. And so there are kind of three versions of that. An add record version, what fields you see if you're editing the mini page, and then what fields you see when you're just viewing it like a little pop-up. And we can cover mini pages probably in the next session. Okay, so we covered title, code. That is our section. And we're going to cover cases and business processes later. But for now, we're going to edit the page, add some fields, move things around. So I'm simply going to hit edit page, and that's going to take me into my page wizard. And now you'll notice that on the left, we have our page elements, and there's a lot of things we can do here. So we're looking at, again, our account, and then we can add new columns using any of these types. A yes, no checkbox, a date, decimals, integers, lookups, or to a drop-down field that we get to define, or to another existing object like account, contact, case, whatever. And then just a text string, and there's lots of different types in there. we have a listing of our existing columns that already exist on the account section. Anything with a red asterisk is required. And then you can see it gives a little nice, pretty icon to let you know what type of field it is, a lookup, text, a date, a number. Anything that is gray here in the listing just means that it has already been added to the page. So these are all existing fields, but anything with gray that's kind of a light gray has been added to the field already. You can add it multiple times, you know, on different tabs or anything if you need to, but it's just letting you know that that information is already there. So generally speaking, we have, again, your left sidebar on your page, which we see if we open an account quick, this information right here. We have a related profile card that's kind of some code built in to show the main contact for this account, which is this information right here. And then we have our tabs, which you see, which again cover right here, and then your field names, not fields, but your field groupings, your details, and all that kind of fun stuff. We'll get into details later. Okay, so let's go ahead and we're going to do a couple things just to show you what's possible. Let's say for our example here, we're looking at an account right now. We don't really need the category field. If we look at it on the screen, you can see that it's A, B, C, D. Maybe we don't care about that. It doesn't mean anything to us. So we're just going to, on our page editor, we're going to jump back here and just hit the X. We're not deleting the field in the database. We're just removing it from the page. And then we're going to take industry and simply, when you get the little crosshair grid, that way you can move it around, so up or down. And you see it adjusts and adds another line below it just in case you need to add a new field there. So move that back up. Okay, so we did not need category, but let's say we do want to very simply right here, for whatever reason, just display the primary contact. So I'm going to take that existing field. I'm just scrolling through my list here, and I'm going to get my crosshairs and drag it up and put that right there in the left little top container area. I know I have that primary contact listed here. This is just a simple example. Okay, now we've added that field and kind of I'm happy with how this is organized. We would like to, let's say, add a custom field, and we're going to name it, we'll make this a decimal, and let's say we're going to put it right here, and we're going to call this, we'll call this year-to-date sales. All right, so now we're adding a new field. You'll say it says new column here. This is essentially like adding a new column to a database table, or adding a new column if you're thinking in the Excel world. You just be adding a column header so that you can start entering information. So title is the pretty name of the field that you see when you're looking at the page, and then code is the database, field name in the account section / table. So it has to be prefixed with USR because that's our defined prefix. That is customizable. We can talk about that another time, but so the USR has to stay there. And then for the code, you can really use letters and numbers, not much else, and no spaces. So we're just going to call this YTD sales. So if I put, if I were to do something like that, you'll see it would yell at me and say, hey, you have to use letters, uppercase, lowercase, numbers. And the numbers cannot be first, so I'm going to get rid of my space. Alrighty. Now, because I told this to add in a decimal type number, we get to pick how it's displayed. Okay, is this the decimal with 2 digits, 1, 3, 4, a lot, just an integer, or currency? In this case, because we're talking year-to-date sales, I'm just going to make it currency. And is this field required or not when you are editing an account or making a new one? In this case, we're going to say no. Do you want to copy this value when you copy records? So a lot of records can be copied, right, in Creatio. Like if you wanted to copy this account to a new one or copy the contact and make a replica of it, do you want this to be copied? When you do that, I'm going to say no, because I don't know what the other account would be. All right. Is this field read-only or not? There could be cases where maybe you're getting something synced from another system and you want to have that information and have that populated through the sync, but you don't want people to edit that field. So you could turn this on to make it read-only. In this case, I will make it read-only. Well, actually, I'm not going to, because then I can't edit it. And then for the appearance, do we want to hide the title on the page so you don't even see the title? Or do you want to even change the title on this page to something different besides what is displayed right here in the title? We're going to leave it empty. And then do you want to make a tooltip? It says like this is year-to-date sales amount. Okay, so that is the little tooltip that will show when you like hover over the field a little bit. Okay, so we have added a new field called user year-to-date sales with a pretty title of year-to-date sales. It is not required. It is editable. And here's our tooltip. So we will save that and it shows up right here. Okay, that is adding a new field. If you wanted to add another one, you're welcome to add any more checkboxes. A Boolean is like a yes/no checkbox. Date and time lets you add what it says, a date and time. It can be just a date, or it can be date stamped and time stamped. A decimal is what we added before. An integer is just what it sounds like, a whole number. A lookup, we will do that now. And then a text string is just a text string, but there's lots of different links. So 50, 250, unlimited length. You can make it multi-line, that kind of stuff. So let's add another a lookup. Let's say we want to add our own custom field that we will edit in the lookups to track some kind of information. So we'll add a lookup. We'll drop it right over here, and let's say we put it in segmentation, and we're going to call this we'll say maybe you're going to track the type of ERP solution that they're using. So we'll say ERP solution. Again, we'll give it a nice code. And this is not required, and we do not want to copy it. Okay, now because this is a lookup, we have to tell the system. A lookup is just a reference to another existing mainly section, but object in the system. And if I hit something in here, you can see like I could make it to a contact or a case, for example. I can just, or you can make your own custom field, custom dropdown, which is what we're going to do. So instead of using anything existing, I'm going to hit this plus sign to add a new lookup. And I'm going to give a title. This is ERP selection options. And I will kind of cheat and copy, but get rid of the spaces. Okay, so now it's good, and save that. So we'll get back into editing that lookup shortly, but we have added a new lookup, which is just kind of a new object in the system that's going to house our ERP selection options. And then how do we want to see that when it's displayed? Do we want to see like a lookup window with a magnifying glass, which would be something like the industry right here that has a little lookup? Or do you want to see this as a list, which in this case would look like the category? So just a drop down list value of available options. In this case, we'll just say list. And because things are related, if you delete the lookup value, like if I were to delete some value here, do I want to totally block that so I can't delete it because it's related to something else? Or do I want to delete that option from the account field with that value? I'm just going to say block because we'll maintain data integrity. It is not read-only. I do want to see the title, and we will save that. All right, so now we have that over here, and I will drag that up there. Okay, so as you can see, you can move these fields around. I'm going to move price list and move this up. So these are field groupings. So a new field group is how you get there. It has a name, let's say segmentation. We can edit that if we wanted to, just by hitting the little pencil. But you can basically change the width of all these columns. And that is simply done by hovering over the edge, and you see I get the little arrow back and forth, and there's a little green sidebar here, so I can shrink that if I want to, or make it bigger, leave it as it is. By default, it wants to take up half, which is like 12 squares, I think, and you can shrink that and modify that as needed, or you can just put everything in one column like that. It just depends on how you want to do it. So you can drag and drop these fields to your heart's content, and then you can shrink them as needed and move things around. And so I can take number of employees, shrink that, move business entity over, shrink that, take annual revenue, shrink that, put that up here, and make it one bigger, and that would be another acceptable option. All right, now we will jump to tabs quickly. So far we have removed a field from here and added an existing field lookup to the sidebar here on the left. We've added a custom field year-to-date sales. We've added a custom lookup called ERP solution and use. And then we have our tabs. So maybe you like all these tabs, but you want to kind of change the information a little bit. So let's go with account info first. We'll go with contact second, connected to, maybe not that important to us. So let's say we want to take timeline and move that second. We want to take attachments and notes and move that fourth. We'll take history, move that here. And then let's say for us on the history tab, we don't need anything, like we don't need partnerships. So we'll just get rid of that detail. I don't need that. Okay, and maybe I want to reorder things. I want activities to be first, and we'll do calls next, and then emails, and I want orders, and then invoices and projects. So we can drag and drop these things. You can see I've got to have the right kind of bar, the gray bar, to know where I'm going to drop it. And that has been saved. All righty. If you needed to add your own tab, you could just simply hit plus, let's do that real quick. And we'll make a tab and call that metrics. Okay, you can change the code if you want. I'll just leave it tab. We're going to go. All right, we will save that. And now we have a new tab called metrics. We're going to make a new field group because we have to have at least one in order to do this. And we will call this, let's just call it metrics. And I'll just leave the code alone. Okay, the reason I'm calling this metrics is over here on the top left of the left sidebar under page elements, we can add widgets, basically like a mini account dashboard. It can be charts, just like a account / metric, a gauge, or even like a iframe type web page thing. So let's add a metric, see what that looks like. I'm just going to simply get my crosshairs, drag it, and because it knows it's a metric, it's going to ask me, and we'll say, let's say, number this. Okay, we'll pick order. All right, I'm just simply typing this in. This is the name of the section, order. And we'll say we're just going to do account. And then how do we want to filter it? And we'll say where the order date is current year. And then how do we associate it? And if we do a lookup here, we can normally just type in account. And we're saying, hey, I only want to see orders where the account is the one that I'm looking at. And then we can change the colors. We'll leave it blue. You can change the font size, the format, and we'll just save that. Okay, I know this looks funny, so I'm gonna 8. I'm just gonna make this a little taller so you get a feel for what it looks like. And then let's say we want to add a chart. We'll add it right over here, and we'll say orders by month. And again, we'll look at orders. Let's see, order. We're going to do a count. This is going to be a, let's say we do a column chart. And we're going to group by date. And we're going to say month. And we're going to filter it again by the that is not true, by the date, and saying current year. And we are related to this by the account metric. Okay, so this is order by month, year. We'll give it a good name. All right, and we will save that. And we'll just kind of resize things, otherwise it'll look funny. Okay, so we have our metrics tab. I'm going to move that right over here. Okay, so now we've made all these changes, added our fields, added 2 new fields, moved our tabs around, and we're going to simply hit the back arrow to save and return to the section wizard. And you'll notice it starts thinking a little bit. It is saving or getting ready to save all our changes. So we're going to hit save. Please, please, please hit save on your section wizard and let it do its process. So behind the scenes, it is updating all the page schema, adding those new fields and objects to the system, adding the new field to the account database table, setting up the display logic for the page and all that kind of stuff. So this does take a minute. We'll let this think and think and think, and hopefully it doesn't take forever. But at the end of this, after it saves, if we're still in Creatio and have not updated anything yet, it will look exactly the same. So the trick there is just once you save it, just go back into your Creatio tab, refresh the page, and it will kind of read the system and take note of the changes that you just made and show the page appropriately. And again, once this finishes, I will show you that, and then we'll very, very briefly jump into the lookup and add some values into the ERP selection window that we custom field that we added, and then show you how that works. All right, so our changes are made. You can leave this page open, you can close it, it's up to you. But you notice if I'm looking at RCI Corp now, I'm fine. But if I refresh, I'm just going to hit Control F5 to refresh. And it's reading all my updated page information. And it will show the changes that we have made. All right. So you will notice on the left, we got rid of category and added primary contact. We added a field called year-to-date sales with a little tooltip. If we hover over that, it says, hey, this is the account year-to-date sales amount. We added, we changed how these were laid out. We added an ERP selection use field, but if I hit my arrow, there are no values yet. We added then a new tab and we changed the structure. And if we look at our metrics, hey, look at that. So for this account, you can simply jump in and say, hey, this is like a mini dashboard for the account. They have X number of orders. This is how many orders they have by month. And that reflects, it's live information. So now let's say we need to add values into our ERP selection or solution and use. So I'm going to close that. And I have another tab open the same. We're going to go into the studio area and lookups. So we have added a new lookup, and conveniently it's here at the top, ERP selection options. But if it's not, you can just do a filter and look for ERP or anything that you named it. So we will jump in there and add new values. So I'll just call this Manica. 50. Oh, make sure I delete this option. Type that correct. All right. So we have added options just by going to Studio Lookups and finding the option that we just made called ERP Selection Options. And now, when I look at my page and my field, we can see that they have values. So that easy to add your own custom lookup and let people select an appropriate value. I will save that, and away we go. All right, I know that was a lot for today. Again, there's a lot of power there, but just remember you can add custom fields, change the layout, add related record information, and even your own little mini dashboard on your section page. So that's the beginning of the no-code customizations. Hopefully you guys found that pretty helpful. Thank you for joining us. And as a reminder, we do have at least 3 currently scheduled future sessions. Next month, we'll be continuing our no-code customization. And then in January of 23, we start covering how to build processes in the system. If you have any suggestions for a future topic or something you'd like to see, let us know. You can email Betsy or Chris, myself, with any ideas. We'd love to hear from you guys. And thanks for joining us today.